ACMi productions are only made possible with your support. Visit patreon.com/ACMi to learn how you can help.
Good evening, everybody. My name is David Morgan. I'm Arlington's Environmental Planner and Conservation Agent. The December 19th, 2024 meeting of the Conservation Commission will be conducted in a remote format, consistent with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, which extended remote participation in public meetings till 31st of March 2025. Am I right thinking that they've extended it again?
I haven't heard either way.
Okay.
No, I don't know, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd think it would have been included in one of those omnibus bills, but
So we shall hang on till March and see what happens. This meeting's being recorded and the recording may be made publicly available. All meeting materials are available at the following link that I'm putting into the chat now. Please note that the Zoom chat feature may be used for questions and comments that contribute to the Commission's procedures, and if it's used otherwise, it may be disabled at the chair's discretion. Public comment period will follow each hearing. We don't have any hearings tonight. Technically, that's not true. We're going to continue a hearing, but there will be no public comment for that at any rate. Chuck Tirone is our chair. He'll facilitate tonight's meeting, and each vote taken during the meeting will be conducted with a roll call vote. We start with agenda review and attendance. So to you, Chuck, for that portion.
Great, thanks, David. So on the December 19th, 2024 agenda, we have a discussion item of enforcement order liaisons. Then enforcement orders, we have 3 of them. I'm going to ratify one of them. Our liaisons to the Water Bodies Working Group, CPA, Park and Rec, and others will update us on what's been happening in between our last meetings. And then the Thorndike Place, for anyone here for Thorndike Place, we are just going to continue that to January 2nd without any discussion. So with that, I'll take a roll call vote. Mike Gildersgame?
He's going to be absent today.
Mike Gildersgame is absent. Nathaniel Stevens?
present.
Susan Chapnick?
Here?
David White?
Here.
David Kaplan?
Present.
Brian McBride?
Brian's out too.
Don't see Brian here
Yeah.
either. Okay,
Mhm.
so and Chuck Tirone is also here. So our associate members, Sarah Alfaro Franco
Present.
and Eileen Coleman.
I don't see Eileen, but
And Eileen doesn't look like she's here also. Okay, so with that out of the way, we're going to go on to our first agenda item. And so typically we have just this note about correspondence. So any correspondence that we received in between the meetings, you can find on the conservation page. If you're having any problems finding that correspondence, reach out to David Morgan, and he will put his contact information in the chat right now. The next discussion on the agenda, but I don't want to skip over the administrator's report. So I'm not sure, we don't have one on the agenda, but maybe David wants to update the commission on his holiday vacation.
Yes, good point, Chuck. I'm off from the 23rd till the 2nd. So I'll direct people to be in touch with the commission chairs and for anything pertaining to planning or the overlap between planning and conservation, have you follow up with the office admin here. I'll include all this information in my away message too, but look forward to seeing y'all in the new year.
David, are you back on the 2nd or are you off on the 2nd and you're back on the 3rd?
I am back on the 2nd.
So you will be here for our first meeting.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
David, did we solve the problem about posting material that comes in while you're gone.
Yeah, I will log in.
And check.
Hours in advance,
Okay.
everything posted. I'll look out for, actually, and it would be very helpful to have Chuck and Susan also watch out for the submission from Thorndike Place, BSC and company.
Yeah.
Make sure that commissioners get that as soon as it comes in, basically. Not going to be checking email regularly, but will periodically to make sure that that gets to all of you, because it's on the docket for the 2nd. And if they are providing a major update to their stormwater report, we'll want to make sure that everybody has eyes on it ASAP.
And
Alright.
how will that communicated to Stephanie Kiefer and her group, and then also posted to the Thorndike webpage for the public? How should we do that?
Yeah, I'll just, when I update the materials for the meeting, I'll make sure it's all, either Jennifer will update the website or I will.
Okay.
Hey, David, so follow up. So I'd like you to send the group so we don't miss anything. I want you to make sure that you let them know to use the conservation email address with Susan and myself on it. I think that note needs to go out, so the onus is on them. So I think that's how we'll handle it. Me and Susan can definitely be aware of anything that is coming in. We can get it to the commission. I guess we're just gonna have to send you a text or something about getting it up on the website. Okay.
So David I'm sorry, Chuck. Is Jennifer also on vacation? Because I hate to bother you on vacation. I mean, she can post things and we can coordinate with her directly.
She will be off during the time that we would need to post for January 2nd.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I was just assuming David had already checked into all that. Okay, so we're gonna move on. And so the next thing that we wanted to talk about after the administrator's report is enforcement liaisons. And so we wanted to create a new category on the Arlington Conservation Commission for enforcement liaisons. We have 3 enforcement orders out there. And we just want to make sure that we are in touch with the parties that want to reach out, and we're not missing anything. So the enforcement liaison's primary acts as a communicating bridge between the Conservation Commission and the enforcement party, including tasks like explaining the procedure and the Conservation Commission's concerns and providing updates on the violations to the commission. So we have 3 enforcement orders, and we've talked to David about this. This is not a surprise to David. He endorses it and would appreciate the help. And Mike Gildersgame, who's not here, I took the opportunity to give him a call, and he wants to take on. Mike Gildersgame is 40 Park Ave. So we're going to have a meeting tomorrow with myself, Susan, David, and Mike Gildersgame. And 335 Mystic Street is being taken on by Sarah Farrow Franco. And so there's one left, and we just wanted to throw it out to the commission to talk about this, but 2 spots are filled. This is not going to be a situation where we put people out there to not understand what's going on. My expectation is they're relaying the information from the meeting or through communication with me or Susan or David. David will remain in the picture, but most of the back and forth would be between Susan or Mike with the party that's involved. So I'll just open it up to questions at this point. And like I said, there's one left. If someone felt like they had time, if not, that's just going to stay with David, Susan, and I.
I have a question around that too. I know there's a assistant administrative position being advertised. Is that something that the assistant administrator could have capacity for rather than relying on volunteers?
Absolutely. This is a stopgap measure to fill in between. And as soon as that next assistant comes on, we absolutely expect to offload all this onto or back onto David's lap and then through David to the assistant.
Thank you.
I should add for context that we're doing interviews for that position this week. We'll have conducted 3 by the end of tomorrow. And when we come back in the new year, then it's the time to get down to decisions and the hiring process. It can be fairly slow to bring somebody on board the town. This, I think you all are familiar. So I would expect, I don't know, I'm very optimistically saying like end of January, but I think probably more likely mid-February if it follows the pattern of that I've experienced. So as Chuck said, it's a stopgap measure, but we will have probably 2, maybe 3 meetings between now and then. And the goal, as Chuck and I have described it to one another, is like, let's get these things closed out. These are outstanding, long-standing agenda items. It would be very good to resolve this with a bit of extra labor between now and early February, let's say.
Yeah, David, thank you. Did I hear that you've completed the interview process? I thought that me and Susan were going to be involved in one of the interviews.
No, it's tomorrow we're doing 2 more, and it's been me and Claire, because it's technically Claire who's the hiring authority through HR for this. But we are feeding the interviewees the questions that Chuck and Susan have provided, and so we're touching all the bases that we would cover in an interview.
You know, that's interesting, and I take exception a little bit to that, because all the way through we were supposed to be involved, and only at the meeting on live TV do I find out that we're not. So that's very interesting.
So David, is there a way Chuck could be involved in a final interview? Obviously, we do.
I can't, I'm not available tomorrow.
No, I'm not saying tomorrow, but they're probably not making a decision tomorrow. So is this these final interviews, or are these the initial interviews and then you have callbacks in January?
Remains to be seen how the interview process goes. There's 3 candidates, and Chuck, I'm sorry, I thought that I was clear up front that we were moving in this direction with HR. So
No, you said we'd be in the second round.
So traditionally, David, as we did with you, the Conservation Commission gets a chance to interview or at least meet whoever we're considering it kind of in the final round, either the full commission or a subset of us. And I think that's really important. Not that I don't trust your judgment, but it is important because they will be working closely with us. So I wonder if Claire would be willing to, maybe we should talk to her again in the new year. When you get your short list of 1 or 2 people, maybe we can have a final Zoom interview or in person or something. I could see Nathaniel has his hand up.
I would also just say it would be fair to the candidate as well, unless they've happened to watch one of our meetings to see what we're like. But
it's a good point, and I hear it loud and clear. I'm perfectly amenable to doing it that way. And I requested the questions from the commission chairs so that we could have this input from the get-go, knowing that, you know, from my perspective, we were proceeding the way that, you know, HR had directed and we're handling it within the department. I do feel like this is a little bit different from hiring me because it's a person that I will supervise who technically reports just to Claire. It's a different arrangement than the hiring of the agent, but I still think that it's important that they meet with you all, of course, and I hear your desire to do that.
Mm.
Happy to honor it.
All right, well, let's see what happens in the new year, but please keep us informed. It would be good to have a understanding of who's going to be, you know, at least who the candidates are, and maybe it would be better input you'd get back from us. So put that on the top of the to-do list when you get back. Just another update. Not, it might even be at the meeting. I'm not even sure if you could get one quick enough to be on the second, but it looks like we are looking to be a part of some process here. Okay, moving on. And so, you know, actually back to this. So we do have the 66R. I'm not seeing any takers for that, which is.
Well, I'm happy to continue helping out as I am, but the January is going to be very busy for me, so I don't want to serve as the primary point of contact. But I mean, I've been on the site now twice and been to or 3 times, and twice, I guess, and been in some conversations. But
is that Nathaniel or is that me?
really,
Nathaniel, your
Yeah,
connection's glitchy again.
Yeah. Okay.
Unfortunately, we lose your voice. Oh, and now you're frozen with your
Yeah.
mouth open. You should
I know.
freeze with your mouth closed. Didn't your mom tell you that?
So yeah. Hey, we have an opportunity to be done quickly tonight, so I want to keep it rolling.
Is that any better? Can you hear me?
We can
That's
hear
a
you,
lot
yeah.
better. That's a lot better. So 66, I just make a suggestion that 66R, let's leave it as it is. I do appreciate Nathaniel being available when he can because he had his boots on the ground a lot there and he's the one who made some substantive recommendations that went into the enforcement order. It is complicated. So I think it might just need to stay with us. It's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and the whole point of this is to constant contact. Just be available for questions and to make sure that we are reaching out a few times in between meetings to see if they're caught up with their paperwork, have the plans ready, and get that information back to the commission. So I'm going to try not to cough. So with that, we have our 2, and I just want to know if that's okay with the commission. And if it is, we'll just accept that and then move on to the next item. I'm seeing David White shaking his head. I'm not sure this needs a formal vote. This is just some extra help around the edges. Yep, see thumbs up, great. All right, so we're going forward. Next thing on our agenda is we're going to be discussing 66R Dudley Street. David, can you, I think
Yes.
is it Carter Knight?
Attendees information, I believe the representative from the condo association won't be present. He's traveling, but I see Evelyn LaRusso is here from 66 Dudley, and there are names that I don't recognize.
Yeah.
There may be
Evelyn, can you hear me? I was wondering if you're here by yourself or if you have other people representing you tonight and who they are?
It's just myself tonight.
Okay. Okay. And no one's here from the condo, David? If anyone's here for 66 and 66R, along with 993 Mass Ave. Could they just use the raise hand function to let us know? And if not, we're going to just proceed with Evelyn. David, I'm going to go to you and I'm going to ask you if you can. Yeah, this is the site with the significant filling on the bank of Millbrook. And David, is there any updates that you need to share with the commission?
As I understand it, they went back to the surveyor and got spot elevations which were missing from the initial plan. And so that has progressed and that will help with the calculations of fill and so on and so forth. I'm pulling up the email now to tell you the other piece of information that's escaping me, which is that they got they're trying to get at least an arborist to examine the 2 trees that were impacted by the fill. That is the full update that I got from Franco. So
Okay.
anything to add to that?
So yeah, before you sign off from this, with your understanding of this enforcement order, when are when are these people going to be ready to come back to the commission with the full plan so we can make some decisions on that? Is that our January 2nd meeting or further down the line? Maybe this is a question for Helena.
It seems like since they are hiring an arborist currently, the holidays are going to delay us a couple of weeks. Probably early January is when they would get somebody hired to do that work. It might take some time for them to get out and conduct the assessment. And if the sort of restoration plan hinges on the determination about those 2 mature trees that we've been discussing, then it would take some time to draft a plan after that assessment that takes the findings into account. So we had discussed earlier this year giving a bit more time in the spring, well, can't call it spring quite yet, at the start of the year to allow for this plan to come together a bit more. And so I would suggest maybe end of February, beginning of March before we call folks back. But again, that was just sort of floated. It didn't have much discussion with the full commission yet, so I'll leave that to you.
Sure. Evelyn, could you come back on? Yeah, Evelyn, did you hear what David said? Is that consistent with your understanding of this, I guess, the schedule?
Yeah, yes, it would be. It's just getting people, getting the arborist out. I've reached out to 2 companies, but since the trees are technically not ours, they want to speak to somebody from the Millbrook condo. So, and that would be up to Franco now to take care of that piece.
And so we're sure, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The trees are in the arborists needed for the trees for what reason?
The arborists need to tell us if we remove whatever field that needs to be removed around the trees, if it will impact them, if they will continue thriving, if we take away, and what the distance from the tree of how much fill we can take away, just the impact on both of those trees. So that's why we that was my understanding. That's why we needed an arborist.
Yeah, I see thumbs up from Nathaniel Stevens. And then on the plan, what are we waiting for on the plan to finish off the spot grading, which I understand David said that that's pretty much finished. When can we look at a plan that's complete.
I think the plan is complete because Franco and I spoke, and he was having a company, I think his surveyor company contacts my surveyor company. So we had questions at our last meeting about elevations on my survey. And to be quite honest, I don't know exactly their conversation of, he did say that he has elevations, and I'm assuming the ones that are already on my surveyor plans are it.
Okay. So is
But I
is that
can't tell you, I can't tell you 100% if that's, I can't speak for Franco, so.
sure? David, are you in contact with Franco, or is that just always through Evelyn?
Yeah, I have direct contact with him.
Can you reach out tomorrow and find out if the plans are ready? And if they are, can you put them on the January 2nd distribution page?
Yeah, are you talking about the survey or the restoration plans?
The survey plans with the elevations.
Got it. Yeah. and
Yeah.
that-
All right, well, that's a few things. Any other questions from commission members? Seeing none. Okay, yeah, Evelyn, I'm just, we're struggling to get these bits and pieces for this together
Mhm.
and trying not to take another 6 or 8 months to move it forward. So I would,
I agree.
appreciate you keeping on top of the people in your team and being available for emails and contacts from David, and just keep the commission up to date. That would be the best.
Yep, always here. Yep, will do.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, do we want to make a motion to continue this to second meeting in January?
Before we
Or-
do that, Chuck, I'm sorry, do we have to change the enforcement order? Does it have dates in it? I don't remember.
Oh,
That's gonna be
I
my
did-
question.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe I mumbled it a little bit, but I did say update the enforcement order to come back in the second meeting of January. Is that what we
Okay.
want?
Okay,
Sure, I'll make a motion to amend the enforcement order to come back on the second meeting, 17th, 16th,
You're looking
16th.
now. 16th.
16th.
16th of January 2025.
I'll second.
Okay, Evelyn, it would be great to have as much information as the commission to understand this project a little bit better on that date. So guess you have your work cut out for you with you, and keep in touch with David.
Yep, will do.
Okay, thank you
So-
for
Vote on
so
that.
Chuck,
being
are
here
you gonna
tonight.
vote? Oh, are we gonna vote on that?
We
motion?
are gonna vote, yep.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I did. I did.
David White, great. Okay. David Kaplan,
Yes.
Susan Chapnick,
Yes,
Nathaniel Stevens,
Yes.
David White,
Yes.
and Chuck Tironi says yes. Okay, this is continued. Yeah, next on the agenda is 335 Mystic Street. 335 Mystic Street, the commission is aware of tree clearing in the aura, some additional clearing with some invasive material. The commission discovered this from a listing on the MLS. David, is there anything that you could bring the commission up to date on with this enforcement?
I've spoken with the applicant, not the applicant, a few times, the owner a few times, via phone. She's also in receipt of the updated enforcement order that we sent as the last time we discussed this matter. Was aware of tonight's meeting and said that she would have difficulty, as of this afternoon, she said she would have difficulty joining a Zoom meeting. And so I don't believe she's here. I don't know if anybody is here representing her. She suggested that she might bring counsel, so
Sure.
anybody for this matter.
So if someone's here representing 335 Mystic Street, could you use the reaction buttons and use the raise hand function? Okay, no, I don't think we're represented tonight on this one. But it sounds like you have had some communication with 335 Mystic. What are the next steps here?
I think we continue the hearing until date certain, and we do a hybrid meeting probably where we have attendees in person, or maybe we just go full in person for one. Up to you. But whatever meeting that we choose to continue to, I would suggest doing at least hybrid so that we can have her participate.
Can you set us up for a hybrid meeting on the 16th? Is
Yeah.
that the day? Okay.
I just note, I checked online, the property seems to be off the market to the extent that matters, but
Does that mean they sold it or they're just not selling it?
no, listing removed.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So I'd like a motion to continue this matter to the January 16th meeting.
Does likewise come with a revised enforcement order.
Yes,
Thanks.
and appear at that meeting.
Second.
Who is that? David Kaplan?
Kaplan, yes.
Yeah,
Thank
Kaplan.
you.
Okay, so let's see. Susan Chapnick,
Yes.
David White,
Yes.
Nathaniel Stevens,
Yes,
David Kaplan,
Yes.
and Chuck Tirone says yes. Okay, so that's been continued to January 16th, which will be a hybrid meeting. And now we want to go to the enforcement order for 40 Park Ave and 993. I have 993, is that correct? And 1305 Massachusetts Ave?
What? I'm
Yeah,
confused. I thought
yeah.
it's 40 Park Ave. No?
40 Park Ave and 1293 and 1305 Mass Ave. That's what it says on the agenda.
yeah, that's about right. The building wraps around, isn't it two properties?
Yeah,
It's 40 Park Ave and then it fronts on Mass Ave.
yeah, the commission discovered this and is aware of trees and shrubs clearing on the bank and the upland habitat of Millbrook. David, can you bring us up to date with this enforcement?
Yes, I think the first thing to note is that the owner of 40 Park Ave and the owner of the other lot, whose address you just gave, have signed a sort of memorandum of understanding that was supplied to the commission saying that it's sort of incumbent on the owner of 40 Park Ave to handle this matter. The other owners were not aware or involved, and so they've submitted that. Let's see where to begin.
Could you please circulate that?
I believe it was either.
I was in the drive, sorry.
It might have been at an earlier meeting when
It's not on the notice agenda.
Yeah, I think we had it at an earlier meeting, so it was part of prior meeting materials. At any rate, yes, I can still circulate it.
I'll look for it, thanks.
So
Let's see, Dan Wells here is probably for the applicant.
yes.
Correct, I'm here.
Or for the landowner. Hey, Dan.
Good evening.
And Carter Knight's the other I'm seeing in the participant list. So the enforcement order had directed installation of a mulch sock to protect the area, which I know had been installed and was still present. That was the only other requirement other than coming to the commission and submitting a restoration plan. The owners have suggested that they want to perform additional work, and so they're suggesting that the restoration plan be widened in scope to include that, or they want to at least suggest to the commission what other work may be performed on the site, and so it would be at the discretion of the commission to determine whether that's a different permit to seek or whether it can be done within the scope of the enforcement order, etc. So I will get out of the way and let them.
Yeah, let me just ask a follow-up question. So the enforcement order is only, the enforcement action is only towards 40 Park Ave. The other two are out of it. But the other two properties want to be part of the restoration. Am I hearing that correctly?
No, technically the enforcement order is still binding on both properties because the work was conducted on two lots owned by two different owners. So they have signed an agreement between themselves saying, and submitted that to the commission saying that 40 Park Ave will take the lead on the restoration plan. The other piece that you're wondering about is whether or not the work that they would like to do is suitable to be done within the scope of a restoration plan, or if you think that that would require filing of a notice of intent, RDA, etc. So I think they want to present the proposal.
Sure, and Dan Wells and Carter Knight are two consultants. I know Dan Wells also, but I don't know Carter Knight.
Yeah, I work and represent 40 Park Avenue for Davidson Management Company out of Arlington.
Okay, and Dan, can you introduce yourself for the
Yeah.
commission?
Chuck, before you go to them, David White has his hand up for a while.
Yeah, I see David.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening.
Dan,
I'm Dan Wells with LEC Environmental, and I'm the wetland scientist.
Okay, thanks, Dan. David White, to the floor.
Is additional work just restoration work or beyond that in terms of construction? What is additional work being proposed?
That's
Yeah,
what we're
same-
hoping to
sa-
hear.
Yep.
Yes.
Sounds like it was restoration work, probably an evaluation of the entire side slope and some implementing some actions that could keep the place safe for the next few years. So who's going to take the lead? Carter Knight or Dan Wells?
Yeah, I'll take the lead. Chuck, am I able to share screen?
Should be soon.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. So Carter contacted me back in mid-October. I went out to the property and delineated the bank mean annual high water of the Millbrook. So Rober survey performed an existing condition survey. That's what I'm showing on the screen. I'll zoom in so you can see it better. But so that, and this just was produced, we didn't have this ready to submit until last week. So that was part of the delay getting before you. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of detail on this plan. So what I did was they provided me with a CAD file of this. And so I created an aerial. So it's kind of easier to understand. So this is an ortho photo, and I'll zoom in. So this is 40 Park Ave. And as you can see, this is the 1293 to 1305 Mass Ave property to the right. So the activity that took place was right in this part of 40 Park Ave, but a lot of it extended over the property line into the adjacent property. So that's what David was talking about. So the owners of this property understand that these owners, Carter's company, the owners of 40 Park, will be handling, restoring the work, the part of the property both properties. So as you can see, the blue line here is the bank of the Millbrook. The yellow kind of faint line here is the erosion control tubes that were put in. So I'll show you some photos, but from when I was there on October 22nd, everything was stable, and those were high quality, pretty 12-inch diameter socks. And this is the edge of pavement. You can see some cars have been parking. It's kind of a gravel area, so cars still were parking beyond that edge of pavement. And this shows the 25-foot no disturb zone, the 50-foot buffer, and this is all in the riverfront of the Millbrook. So I'll zoom in a little bit closer to this area. So these pink circles are surveyed remnant stumps that were visible or, remaining after the activity took place. So there's 16 total stumps. On the site plan, they actually added the diameter of the stump. So if you want that level of detail, it's on the survey plan. So that's kind of the lay of the land. You can see, so a lot of the work did take place on the adjacent property. So I'll show you some photos back from October. So this is the off-site portion kind of facing northeast. So you can see here's the erosion control. These are the blue flags are the bank of the Millbrook. And then you can see, for example, a stump here, this very large kind of rotted stump. And then now I'm facing the other direction back upstream of the Millbrook. So you can see some more of the blue bank flags. You can see some more stumps. And there's the side of the building. And this is kind of a little bit further upstream. Again, some stumps and the blue bank flags. Closer up view. And then you can see the Millbrook as it kind of comes in from the west. It's an armored on both sides. Part of it is a stone wall. And this is looking back towards the, this is the off-site work. And you can see some of the stumps. Now, and on this side, kind of upper top of the slope, as I understand it, was very dense with poison ivy vines. So I don't believe there's only a couple stumps in that area, but I think it was pretty thick with at least poison ivy and maybe some other invasive vegetation. And then this is the kind of the other side, the uppermost part. You can see this concrete wall lines the brook. And finally, the last photo is just kind of coming from Mass Ave. If you're walking north towards along Park Ave, that's where the property corner is. It starts here and the Millbrook flows this direction. And so there wasn't, I don't believe any of the trees or vegetation was altered in this part. So that's kind of what's out there now. And so the current, being in touch with Carter recently, I don't think I guess Carter can chime in, but I don't think we're pursuing some of the other site improvements at this point. I think we're just going to focus on restoring, coming up with a planting plan to restore this area. And, we wanted to talk to the commission before kind of putting a lot of effort into designing what we're going to do. But the general concept is going to be taking this 25-foot no disturb zone, and so where the edge of pavement starts and kind of from following that line and then going along the 25 and maybe to this building corner. So this entire area we would be restoring that with multiple tree plantings and shrubs. And we would put some kind of monumentation every, 30 feet or so to maybe granite markers. So it would be clearly demarcated what this 25-foot no disturb is. So there won't be any, it's going to be obvious. There's going to be a lot of new plantings put in here. So it's going to be clear that there's no further alterations to this area. And, that's our general concept. And Carter and I are going to meet with the landscaping company that his firm uses. So we'd like to work with them and kind of see what they get their input on. How do we deal with some of, working around where there's stumps left in place. We're not proposing to remove them, but we want to, and steep slopes. So we want to make sure we have the people who would be putting the trees and shrubs in kind of involved in the process. So of course, we're going to be using nothing but native non-cultivar plantings. We're going to be doing a lot of trees, heavy on the tree side for sure. So that's generally what we're proposing at this point. We obviously can't really plant anything till the spring, so we'd like to have a little bit of leeway to come up with a good plan, but get it before the commission maybe in March if possible. And just have it all ready. Maybe we'd start in February with a meeting with you again, but we'd like to. There's no point kind of rushing to do it by the next meeting or two, because nothing's going to get done until April anyway. So I don't know, Carter, if you have anything to add.
Sure. Thanks, Dan. I guess clearing of this area was really initially was intended to be done by a goat company. And I had met with the woman who managed these goats that really you hire and they stay there for a period of time to take care of overgrowth in this area. What she did mention to me is that there were 2 varieties of weeds that were poisonous to goats. And that was upon our second meeting. And we actually cleared those areas out. We had a follow-up meeting. She was having issues with accessibility. I don't know if anyone within the commission maybe remembers what the site kind of looked like. There was a good amount of overgrowth, invasive species, and rubbish. So anyway, I continue to follow up with the woman who managed these goats and really got nowhere with her. She wasn't taking my calls any longer. So we ended up clearing it out just with our own staff that we have in-house that did that. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a backstory as to why that happened, when it happened. We purchased the property in late July and subsequently then after.
So Carter, your this proposal that I heard doesn't address what looks like a bare spot next to the building further up than couldn't see if that was a 25-foot line or the 50-foot line. Is it possible for that area to be included in the restoration, considering it's part of the riverfront area?
So it's abutting the creek there, Millbrook?
No, it's closer. You go back, yeah. So it's so we got 5 cars, the 5th car heading into the parking lot.
Yeah, yeah.
So that whole area looks like it's brown and between the cars and the building. And I was wondering if you would restore that area because that's also in the riverfront.
Yeah, there is a plan to do that. And not the one that we've finalized that we can present, but that would be included.
Okay. So you're working on 2 plans, but when you come back in either the end of February or March, we'll see one plan that encompasses the area that's been, I guess, worked on, and then this area that I just mentioned. So it's just one plan with all native plants.
Yes, I believe so.
That sounds reasonable. So just to be clear, can you see my cursor? Is this what you're talking about?
Well, I'm talking about anything out in that area that's dirt, because just to protect it and to stop cars from driving in on it, it seems like if you invest in some plants, then, this will become, good habitat next to the Mill Brook. I think that would be a good idea if you could do something like that. The other thing you mentioned was there's a bunch of trees and you're going to put trees back. Are you worried about crowding and shading with those trees, and how are you going to manage that, Dan, I guess?
Well, if you can kind of see the spacing, these are, these are where the trees were. It's very dense along here. So yes, in this part of the site, there's, I think you can see there's many more gaps that are potentially to be planted in this area. So I think leaving those with those stumps kind of left in place, yeah, there's not a lot of space to put trees. So, that would be bumped up, I guess, to a little bit higher up on the slope. Maybe there would be some shrubs that could kind of fill in, kind of make a dense, dense cover in and around these stumps without, that would help stabilize the slopes. But in terms of shading, I mean, I don't think there's no trees remaining in this area, so that wouldn't be a concern.
Yeah, I just meant when the trees, if you're planting a lot of trees in close proximity, they're going to compete and you're going to lose a few. But if you use this whole area and you spread out what was taken, maybe that's a good solution. And then on top of that, you have to worry about the integrity of the foundation and your driveway. So you have a lot of things to think about in this small area as far as planting goes.
Yep, understood. Good point.
Susan, I see that your hand's up.
Thank you. I have two questions. One, are you planning on moving where you park cars? Because right now, obviously, some of them are parked within the 25-foot no disturb, and we really would prefer they weren't even in the 50. So are you going to, do you have a plan of where you can move your parking spaces?
I can answer that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, those cars that you see in the image right there are trespassing.
Oh, okay.
So those are not vehicles associated with 40 Park Ave.
Okay.
What sometimes happens is that during peak hours of the day at Total Fitness, which is 30 Park Ave next door, they have lack of parking spaces available and many people do park there. We have since coned off this area to try to prevent people from parking there and get a better idea of what we're trying to do and really kind of conceptualize the future of the site. And so we intend on continuing to do that. But like I said, they are trespassing. And we have spoken to the folks over at 30 Park Ave about it.
Okay, great. That's good to, and I did hear Dan saying there would be some kind of markers when you're done with the restoration, and maybe you put a few markers a little ways out just so people don't park, or that can be discussed later. Then the second question is probably for Dan, but I'm not sure. I'm assuming you're familiar with our vegetation replacement requirements in our local bylaw and local regulations. And since so many trees were removed, and as you said, there may not be as much place to plant new trees, not there, but maybe on the other side. I just want to make sure that you maximize the amount of trees you can put in, because if you went by the letter of the law of our local regulations, you probably wouldn't have enough room for all the trees you need to replace. It would be like a 2-to-1 for most of them, it looked like, compared to the diameter it looked like those stumps were.
Yep, good point. We will certainly factor that in. Yeah, and so if there's a case where we feel like, so we could add additional shrubs if we just don't feel there's space for the trees, there's some flexibility in the bylaw regs.
Yeah, that would be great. And when you do come back with your plan, if you could, for the commission, make sure you have a little table of, okay, how many trees were removed, about how big were they? What are you proposing to replace them with, trees and shrubs, and your justification for that? Because we have to have we have to use judgment on why we might accept something that is not consistent with our regulations, though we're allowed to use judgment. So in order for us to use judgment, we need the data.
Understood.
Great, thanks.
Okay, I see that David Morgan has his hand up.
Thanks, Chuck. I want to flag for LEC that this area is a heat island. It's one of the hotter ones in Arlington, and so your planting plan will need to consider that microclimate and be resilient to some pretty elevated temperatures on extremely hot days. I also note that for the reason that maintenance is going to be very tricky and important for getting this restoration established. So watering is going to be paramount. Going to need to make sure that there's a really good plan in place to get things established, because otherwise you're looking at doing this over and over again. I'm confident that no one wants that.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
David Kaplan?
Thank you. Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. So I just had a question. I guess it seems like we're talking about a couple of different things, and I just want to get some clarity on. We're talking about sort of a mitigation plan for the enforcement order, which is to, restore the area that was disturbed with the tree cutting and some of the vegetation clearing. But I also hear some conversation about expanding the restoration too, and I know Chuck sort of alluded to that. I guess I wanted to understand from the applicant, Dan, you sort of delineated with your cursor where you were thinking about restoring, you're going to meet the edge of pavement and then restore out from the 25 going back to the building. But I've heard some talk about expanding into the 50-foot and restoring some of that area too. Is that something that the applicant is proposing, or something that the commission is suggesting that you consider?
So I heard that there was going to be, from David Morgan, that there was going to be two discussions tonight, one about restoring what was cut, and then an additional vegetation plan. So we just naturally got into that area. But when I see this aerial picture and I see the cars degrading this area that's within 25 feet of the riverfront, you could almost imagine that, and I don't think anyone on the commission would have a problem saying that's a violation too. So that habitat's gone, it's turned into pavement, someone put gravel there. And
is that a violation or a pre-existing condition? I guess I'm a little confused.
Well, I would say it's a violation, but how far back do I have to go? I'm not sure, but that one car that's almost at the erosion control, that seems to be a problem, and it just creeps in each year.
So just as this aerial photos is from spring of 23. So and Carter's firm purchased this in, I think, July of this year. So, but as Carter mentioned, they've already taken steps to kind of block this off with some cones. So it certainly was pre-existing, but I'm hearing you loud and clear. And I think Carter, it sounds like you're open to this. Rather than just stopping at the 25, we would expand our restoration, into this within the 50 as much as is feasible, leaving some room for whatever operations are needed. But certainly, yeah, we're not gonna, after we're done restoring it, there's not gonna be a chance for any cars to encroach.
Yeah, David, I wanted to let you know that, and you may know this anyways, the violation goes with the property owner, even if it was a previous owner that created that. So it's well within the commission's right to have this restored, even if it was there when Carter Knight's company bought this property.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm sort of following you. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, no. Is every development in the 25-foot then a violation, or do we have to sort of link it with some existing activity or some recent disturbance?
To be honest with you, it's all about how much enforcement the commission wants to do. I'm sure we could be doing this 2/3 of our meeting right down Millbrook. And as a matter of fact, at 993, there's another one that was brought up to us. You might have walked it that first day on 66 Dudley, that there's some encroachment there. I do understand what you're saying. Like, is it fair to ask for more? I get that. I think of this as a commission wish list. We are asking for a restoration plan. Dan Wells and Carter Knight can come back with their restoration plan. They've heard what the commission said and what we're interested in: protection and some restoration. So if they can't afford everything we're talking about, well, they'll have to take that into consideration, but it's up to the commission to agree or not. The violation is on what's new. I haven't heard a motion to extend it, but certainly the wishes of the commission, from what I heard from myself and Susan, I didn't see anyone else yet, we'll hear from them, would like to see, if you know the area, it's mostly pavement. I'm sure you do. This looks like a great spot to create some habitat, but we have an opportunity to do a little bit of something here, and we're making the most of it.
Well, yeah, that said, I agree with the advocacy and the idea of, protecting the resource and enhancing it. So I just want to thank the landowners for considering any additional work they can do.
Sure. I'm going to go to Nathaniel first. Nathaniel?
Thanks. Yeah, I was just going to say that I support what David Kaplan just said, which is getting on board with, I think, what Susan and Chuck were saying, which is what the applicant was kind of proposing anyways.
Sure, great. David Morgan.
Wanted to add some clarifying detail about the site. So you're looking at that yellow dashed line, that's the edge of pavement, and we're talking about restoration from the bank of Millbrook up to maybe the 50-foot at this point. Between the 50-foot and that edge of pavement, the yellow dashed line, that was also cleared out. There was largely invasives and some low-growing shrubs. There might have been a tree in there, maybe sumac or something like that. So I mentioned that to say I agree with Chuck that it's all fair game. It's all riverfront area for restoration and would include the gravel fill from the old owner's activities in that. So concur with Dave and Nathaniel on that, but also wanted to add that the area sort of between, actually it's more like the 50-foot line runs directly through a like loading bay kind of area attached to the building. And yeah, you can see the cursor moving there. That's actually concrete. So there's a section of this stretch that has already been converted and is filled with like developed area. I don't know if there are plans to remove that or if it's germane to how you plan on using the building in the future, rehab it, what have you, but I think that probably needs to be part of the discussion too, because it's pretty decrepit right now, and imagine probably some improvements are in the making for that. So wanted to flag it because it's part of the description of the area that I think we've skipped over, but would be good to touch on, and also to find out if you have plans for that landing pad, loading bay, whatever you want to call it.
Who's that directed to?
Carter probably as the owner, and maybe Dan, if you know details about next steps.
Carter, can you let us know if you have an answer? If not, and you want to think about it and come back, that's also fine.
Sorry. I was in the middle of something. I have 3 kids here by myself, but what was the question?
The loading bay, is that something that's needed with the current use of the building, or is it on a short list of removal?
Yeah, we would ideally like to bring that down to grade, if at all possible, obviously with permission of the commission. I know that's something down the road that would require potentially permitting and something like that, but that I think would help us in many ways with that area and any additional plantings that we're considering, after obviously receiving approval from the commission.
Okay, that's great. Maybe you can put that at least concept on the plan that,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know how it works, like from the loading bay up is going to be a future project.
right.
Okay, any other questions tonight from the commission members? Dan, can you take down the screen so I can see? Thanks. Anyone?
I had one more
Oh,
question,
sorry, Susan. Yeah.
I just wanted to understand the enforcement order, the way it is now, just asked for erosion control, right? So do we need to make a motion to amend?
Yeah, not yet though, because we're gonna
Okay.
see if there's anybody, but you're right, you're on the right track. We need to talk about the enforcement order and what we want for our next meeting and what time we're gonna ask for these applicants to come back. So is anyone here attending tonight's meeting that would like to make a comment about, lost it, is it 330? No, it's not. It's 40 Park Ave and 1295 and 1305 Mass Ave. We have a reaction button, and you use the reaction button to raise your hand. Seeing none, Susan, do you want to start us off with the discussion about updating the enforcement order?
Sure. Oh, I see Susan Stamps has her hand up. Chuck,
Sure,
maybe
great.
she got it up late, so.
Susan, great. Please introduce yourself for the record and state your question.
Hi, thanks so much. I was listening while driving the car. And I pulled over. I didn't chance to look at the documents for this project. And I have a general idea of where it is. And I just wanted to mention 2 ideas. One is I want to make sure that you guys know that we have a new zoning bylaw 6.3, which requires if there is major development on the property that the developer plant a street tree every 25 feet. Do you guys know that?
No, we don't, but is this
Okay.
area considered a street?
I have no idea because
I wouldn't
haven't
think
looked at
so.
the
I think it's a parking lot.
okay. Okay. And then the other thought I had was something we've been talking about on the tree committee is depaving. They're starting to do that on a small project basis in Somerville. So I just throw that out there. I know you guys talk about that a little bit sometimes, and I didn't know. I've heard you talk about it being a heat island tonight, and David, and so that's, that whole area up there is a heat island. So maybe if they can do even more planting if they do some depaving. So that would be my idea.
Susan, in Somerville, do they depave and put down some permeable paving so it has the ability to, let the water flow through it? Or are these areas that are restored?
I think that they're restored.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, Chuck, I know almost nothing about it. And I think it's possible that the projects that are going on are ones that are citizen driven, that they're not necessarily driven by the town yet, but they're kind of like doing some projects, some neighborhood projects. So, anyway, but
Mhm.
either one sounds like a good choice, whether to plant or to put in porous pavement.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
planting is obviously better.
Thank you. Is that Bill Icamp?
Yeah.
Is that your hand being raised? Sure, you can speak if you're, if I have that right.
He seems to be screen sharing. on my
Yeah, I
system.
don't, I see that. David, is that something you can straighten out?
Got it.
Bill, are you trying to get the attention of the commission?
Trying to find the mute button, unmute button.
Just ask him. Yeah.
I'm looking at well, that's going on. I'm looking at the enforcement order. I finally found it from the October meeting. This was issued on September 17th. I don't think we've revised it since. It orders cease and desist. Resource area alterations shall be corrected and the resource areas returned to their original condition. Restoration plan shall be filed with a commission on or before October 9th, 2024. Restoration plan and maintenance plan. So I would make a motion to also take the following action to install a 12-inch biodegradable mulch sock for erosion and keep that through April 2025 and attend another meeting. So I'll make a motion to amend this order to have a restoration plan filed a week before our first meeting in March. Which would be, let's see, first meeting in March.
It's 27th. Yeah. So a week before?
The 6th. So the week before, yep. So file a
27th.
restoration plan by February 27th.
Yeah, we probably want to move that back a bit. Maybe we want to get it on like the 26th. David, is that, because I know it gets kind of busy towards the end of the week receiving things, getting them up for the commission.
26th by 4 p.m. when town hall closes.
Yeah, but we have a supplemental material sheet. What does it say on that? As far as probably be better to combine the two. It looks like David's looking.
He's pulling it up. 2025. Bear with me while I wait for technology to catch up with what I'm trying to do. So the supplemental information deadline for the March 6th meeting? Is
Yeah.
what we're looking at? Yeah, it would be the 26th after all.
Great. All right.
And we've got to do it for both. I see there's two, I think there are two enforcement orders for one for each property. Yep, 40 Park Avenue Associates LLC. So I'll make a motion. They look identical except for the property owners. So I'll make a motion to amend the one first for 40 Park Avenue, and then I'll do a motion for 1290, whatever it is, US Ave.
I'll second that one.
Seconding 40 Park Avenue, David Kaplan,
Yes.
Susan Chapnick,
Yes.
David White,
Yes.
Daniel Stevens,
Yes.
and David Kaplan. I start with you, right? Sorry.
Yep.
Chuck
Yes,
Taroni
you did.
says yes. Okay, so that's moved. We're gonna do the next one.
For
1295 and 1305.
Yep, so moved. Same amendment.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
David White seconds. David Kaplan,
Yes.
Susan Chapnick,
Yes.
Nathaniel Stevens,
Yes.
David White,
Yes.
and Chuck Taroni says yes. Okay, we'll see you on March 6th. And the supplemental information will be on February 26th. But David will update the enforcement order and send that out and it's to the exact same spot. Any other questions, Dan, or oh, lost him on the screen at least.
Nope, I think that's clear. I appreciate all the feedback from the commission and suggestions. We will see you in a couple months.
Great.
All right,
Happy
Dan,
New
thank
Year,
you.
Dan.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chuck, I just wanted to note for the record that Eileen Coleman has joined the meeting.
Eileen.
Okay. Okay. All right, so let me find the agenda. So we went through our enforcement orders, made some good progress on 40 Park Ave. And we're down to discussion E, which is a water bodies working group update, and we go to David White for that. David.
Okay, working on two things. One is the annual report of the water bodies, which is in process. The other is the budget for the next fiscal year. We met today and worked out a tentative budget for next fiscal year, which I think is a start in the right direction. You'll hear more about that in next meetings, I think.
Okay. When you present the budget, we'll have to put you up a little elevate you in the meeting. Do you know which when you'll have that ready at this point, or is it still to be
Probably
determined?
pretty sure by the second meeting in January.
Okay.
Not the first meeting, that's too early.
Yeah. Budget. Okay. Okay. Let's go to CPA committee liaison, which is Brian McBride. Brian's not here. I don't know if anyone has anything to add to Brian's what Brian might say. If not, I'm going to move quickly on to the next one, which is a Park and Rec liaison. So I know that's either Susan or Nathaniel during the month of December.
I think we decided not to go to those meetings.
We haven't been going. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
and there was a meeting that David Morgan was supposed to present the CPA projects, but I think that you just gave the information to Naomi. Is there any further update
Tasha.
on Park and Rec, David?
We got a letter of support from Park and Rec for the tree survey that we've proposed. And technically it's the Open Space Committee proposed. And applications are due for all CPA projects tomorrow. So those will be going in. Meetings with Natasha. I haven't met with her this month, but Claire, department director, reached out and said, let's get a meeting together for early at the start of January. So it'll be the three of us meeting at that time.
So you have not met with, you haven't had your first monthly meeting with her yet?
I had my first monthly meeting in November, but we did.
Oh, you did? Okay, right.
All right, great. And moving right along, that's you, Nathaniel, because as I understand it, you might have an update on Sim's conservation restriction.
I might, if I can remember what it is, but
Okay.
yes, David and I met with, had a good meeting with town council the other day. They're going to collect the documents and provide us an analysis, and they were debating whether we're probably to the full commission in an executive session, which would help us ascertain who has responsibility for what. Part of the problem with this project is it's been going on for so many years, but the idea is to try to urge faster action on the forest management plan in particular, as well as on dealing with the encroachments.
So what is the question? It's not obvious that it's Arlington 360?
Is the land trust involved too?
The land trust has been attending most of the meetings I've been having with the liaison hired by the property owner. So it looks like and that's Dave Lapointe at Beals and Thomas. So as you may recall, Beals and Thomas was hired to do the survey work, and then they hired him to help survey work, identify the encroachments, which he documented quite well, send out the letters, get reaction from the encroachers, in which we've had, of course, a variety of responses, as you well might imagine, anywhere from "sure, I'll do that right away" to I dispute that you even own that land, send me some documents. So we're dealing with that issue, but so yes, so for the forest management plan, apparently the management company, which is Gray Star, was more up to speed on what that responsibility was, but the property owner wasn't. So it's shifted from the property management company over to the owner. And I think we were told that at our last meeting last week that essentially I think the property owner is a little bit fearful that they are going to be on the hook to fully implement the forest management plan, which is, again, as I told them, I don't know that we've necessarily agreed to it, but what the forester they hired recommended was this, I would say, pretty substantial work, which is essentially in 5 years and 5 phases, cut down and replace all the trees in the forest. So I think the property management company, the owner is thinking, that's a larger undertaking than I think. Certainly larger. That was not something that was envisioned that I can never recall 15, 20 years ago when this whole thing first came up, the idea of a property management plan. I think it was more of a sort of thin a little bit here, remove something over there, and then have
Yeah, and
trails
just
put in.
manage it, put a little trail.
Manage the existing, not a wholesale. So I
Right.
think that understandably, I think they're a little surprised and wanting to know that's a much larger order of magnitude than I think what was originally envisioned. But anyways,
And
again,
I think the commission felt that way as well. We were
I think so,
pleasantly
right.
surprised.
Yes.
Yay, you're gonna do all this. Great.
Right.
But
So
yeah.
So the idea, so I encourage them to come to the commission and discuss this a little bit more. But in the meantime, David Morgan and I wanted to speak with town council just to refresh our recollections about what's going on, or what the parties' respective responsibilities are. And so that's what's underway. And I think they promised, David Morgan, to get us something by mid-January, right? Maybe. Jacqueline and Mike, the assistant town council and town council. But David, chime in if I've forgotten anything and misstated something.
So the management plan, basically, the management company sort of approved the plan that the owner doesn't like. Is that the situation?
I'm sorry, David.
So
Say that again.
The management company came up with a plan, but the owner didn't sign off on it.
No, I think the management
Well,
plan, the management company went out and hired the forester.
Yeah.
And who came up with the plan. And I think at that point it was when the owner was paying more attention to what the management company was doing. But
that was never actually approved by the owner.
No, I wouldn't go that
approved
far.
by us either.
No, it hasn't been approved by us either. But I think it's fair to say that Adam Post, who works for Gray Star, which is the management company, he's the one who I think at our urging went out and found a forester to do the plan.
Okay, so that's sort of abandoned now, a new plan in process.
No, I wouldn't say that. No, we've been pushing for a response to the commission's comments that we provided last September of 2023, following our public hearing in August or September 2023, about when that plan was first presented, that I think it's Dan Cathcart came up with. So it hasn't been, in my mind, that plan has not been finished or even agreed to by the commission or the land trust.
Okay, so the plan is still in evolution.
Yes, but I think that the property owner, I think, is fearful, frankly, about where this might go. If the commission says, "Oh, yes, we want to have this done," then it becomes a question of, okay, who's going to pay for all that work over 5 years? And I think that, understandably, they want to know, are we obligated to do that? And I think the town and the land trust secondarily want to know, as well. Are they obligated to do that, or is that something that is that's up to the town to fund? I do recall that there was money set aside as part of the whole deal, like a $30,000 or $40,000
Sounds going
contribution, but
down.
I can't even remember if that one or
Yeah, Nathaniel,
Seems
you're
up again.
coming in and out. Great.
Yep, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, sorry, thanks. I made an adjustment, clearly that didn't work. So yeah, so I think we are, so the respective parties, again, want to figure out who has the responsibility to do what vis-a-vis the forest management plan. But I think we should still try to keep the management plan moving forward. But I think we also need to know what our rights and legal rights and remedies might be if things slow down.
Yeah, that sounds like step one. I just had a question. A forester went out and they didn't like the plan. I don't know how this works. Can you just go out and get another forester and do forester shopping?
I don't
You
think
know.
that was it. It's just that the forester had such an extensive plan. And I remember Kathy saying to us at the time, or saying to them, how are you going to pay for all this?
That's a big plan.
It was a huge plan, and it was way more than anything we expected. And I think the forester that they chose was doing, had no budget,
Thinking big, thinking
not
big.
given a budget, and was doing this, catalog of a plan.
Yeah, so we could just imagine he's taking down the Norway maples, right? And what else is out there?
There are
Black
a few
locust.
oak trees. Yeah, there are a few
No,
oaks.
Look back, look.
I think it's full of locusts and
Right.
and so I'm thinking invasive. So if it's covered with that, maybe those are all the trees he wanted to take down. And then it was the access to those trees, which would take down the rest of the trees. So maybe another forester would say something different about those invasives, like in air quotes, because black locust is used elsewhere in the country for a lot of building material. You come up with another plan just to take down the trees or watch it and just take out the dead wood and
Yeah,
do something like that. I mean, I thought that's kind of where we were at. Anyways, I was just asking about do you go out and get one? But it sounds like Susan thinks you just modify the plan. Maybe phase one is extended for 3 years, and so it turns out to be a 20-year plan instead of a 5-year plan.
Or maybe you get rid of the last 5 year, you don't do everything, because some of it was really like icing on the cake, in my opinion. As long as you do some of the invasives and some of the real, the stuff that we were thinking of it in management. We don't want to go into detail now that we don't have the plans in front of us. My memory is that. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions on this? David Kaplan, I know this is your zone here.
No, just listening to the conversation and again, same reaction as the commissioners. I was surprised at the scale and scope of the restoration plan, and I'm not surprised one bit that somebody's balking at implementing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a compromise to be had.
Okay. So that was Sims, and that's the end of our discussions. We usually don't take comments from anyone attending tonight's meeting, so I'll just move on to the first hearing.
Hey, Chuck. Sorry.
That was.
It's Nathaniel. Sorry. On the agenda I have, which I think is the one online, there's something about across routes in Arlington's Great Meadows.
No, that's on our next agenda, on the 2nd. Across Lexington will be on the 2nd.
Okay.
And so we'll have that first thing on the agenda.
Little Trail edition.
And then, small presentation, first thing on the agenda.
Mike Kaczynski.
And then we're going to do.
Oh, good, Mike.
Yeah. So I think that agenda is up already.
It is. Yes, I clicked on it. It is. It's up and working.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what the problem was. Okay.
Is a plan there? Is Mike's?
Yes. There's a hyperlink on it, so I'll double check. But yeah, I think it's there.
Okay, so we're good. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to the hearing, and the first hearing is the DEP file number 91 0356, notice of intent for Thorndike Place. It's been continued many, many, many times. And we're here tonight to let you know that we're continuing it once again. We expect the applicant to come back at our January 2nd meeting. And as a matter of fact, the applicant has requested us to continue this to the January 2nd meeting. I will just let you know that if there is some additional information that we're waiting for, and we've made a plan. We have a plan to upload that so the public can see it as soon as it comes in. So any information the commission gets over the holidays, it will be up on the website, and you can always email the website. And if you do that, others will see the emails while David's gone. So those precautions are in place. So with that, can I get a motion to continue this hearing to January 2nd, 2025?
Before you do that, I just want to, for the record, David White has recused himself. Now we can do the motion. Thank you.
Yep.
So
And
moved.
David,
So moved. Sorry.
Who
second?
got
I'll
that?
second. I seconded David Kaplan.
Got it.
Okay, so Susan Chapnick,
Yes.
David Kaplan,
Yes.
Nathaniel Stevens,
Yes.
and Chuck Teroni says yes. Okay. If anyone's here attending tonight's meeting that would like to speak to the commission about something that we didn't cover tonight and we didn't expect to cover tonight, please use the raise hand function and turn your video on and let us know, because we're about to close the hearing and meeting. Seeing no one,
Chuck,
I
I
will-
have one comment.
and got two.
I'm sorry. When are the materials due for the January 2nd meeting? So I'm gonna, not look at my emails all the time, and I want to make sure I look at it on the day when it's due. Can you tell us that? Morgan?
David's ears perked up. I know he was looking at that list again. So David, can you let us know when the supplemental materials due for the
Because
first
they
meeting
probably
in
won't give it to
January?
us early, so I want to know when it's when it's due, and then I'll look for it.
Oh my God, I want their home phone numbers.
Really?
Technically, it's due Christmas Day.
Yeah, so 2 o'clock, probably 12 o'clock on the 24th, right? I mean, that might be something that you want to let them know also.
26th.
It's
Yeah.
due on the 25th. Is that what you're saying, David?
I'm saying check in the 26th.
I'm saying we should extend it to the 26th to allow them.
Great. Could you reach out to them before you leave tomorrow and just email and tell them that? Given the holiday, they have till the close of business on the 26th.
Make it part of
Get us that material, and if we don't get it, then we're not.
Do you
we're
want to
not
tell them a
continuing.
time, like by EOD, or you want to say something different?
the 26th.
Because the end of day, that's when I don't look at my emails.
26th is a Thursday.
Yeah, no, I'm serious, Susan. Do you want to say by
5
2
p.m.
o'clock?
You can set whatever time you like.
Yeah,
Close it
say 2 o'clock.
7, but 2 o'clock,
2 o'clock.
fine by me.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. David White, did you have your hand up, or you
I
just
just-
let me know that Susan had her hand
Time to
up?
go. Time to go.
Yes, Susan, yes. Okay,
Happy
here we go.
holidays, everybody. Oh,
Happy
Yeah, can
holidays,
we have a-
everyone.
We have a
Holidays.
motion,
we have to close the meeting.
we have a motion to close in a
Motion to
Motion
second.
to close.
Yes,
Second,
Second.
okay.
Oh,
All right, everyone just wave. We're
Bye.
good. Bye now.
See you in the
Happy
new year.
holidays.
In January.
All
Yeah.
right. Happy New Year.
ACMi productions are only made possible with your support. Visit patreon.com/ACMi to learn how you can help.